Hey guys, welcome back to the MJ Gooner podcast right here for the post-match review. Arsenal 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Well, it's fair to say that North London, it's neither red or white in this fixture. A very disappointing game in general. I think by the time when you guys are listening to this, the PSV post-match review will be out. I think it will be out right around after the Spurs game. Now, of course, I'm just staying, early, waking up early just to watch the game. But this is we're gonna focus on the game against Spurs. So this game, it's not a good game at all. Trossard not being in it, certainly going to be part of it. It was kind of a late injury news, apparently yesterday, at least on Twitter. I think a lot of people pointing out that Trossard was not in the picture, but indeed he was indeed injured. I believe it was around his calf area. And at the same time, you can honestly say that Thomas Partey and also Martinelli are deeply missed in this game. Which I will talk about that later on. But honestly, the starting lineup, David Raya coming back on go, or coming on in go again, back to back game for him. And honestly, I think today he has been fine. It was just that one amazing save that he made against Brandon Johnson in the first half. But other than that, I think he has been okay. His distribution was a little bit questionable at times, where he just kind of booted the ball in an area where no Arsenal players were present. And I felt like this game should have been, or would have been, for Ramsdale. I mean, based on what Ramsdale has been doing for the past two North London derby last season, I think Aaron Ramsdale should have started this game. No offense to David Raya. I think for the past two games, Everton and again against PSV, I think David Raya was amazing. But today's game, certainly, personally for me, I think Arteta kind of got it wrong in terms of choosing which goalkeeper to play. Just a very disappointing game in general. First half, I mean, we've been pressing. We have been a little bit dominating, but not as, dominated as the game against PSV or the game against Everton. And we know how good Spurs has been so far this season. And of course, I mean, like Son said the other day, where Arsenal do not want to face them, and that's true. I didn't want to face them because they look quite dangerous every time when they're on a counterattack. We got caught, a couple of times, nearly losing the game. But yeah, the first half was pretty much where it was okay. It's not bad, but it was okay. We have a few chances. Jesus, very early chance on the left-hand side. Very tight corner. Good save by Vicario. And later on, Nketiah, in that angle, very tight angle, could have probably squared it to Jesus or Vieira. But, pretty time-sensitive when you're in that situation, in that area, and looking to trigger a release. And Vicario, good save, blocking the near post. And until the third minute, I think it was before the first goal. Actually, it was not. But Bukayo Saka scoring the first goal of the game. Very good to see him on the score sheet once again. Definitely boosting my FPL points. But it took an insane deflection off Romero. I believe it was counted as a goal for Bukayo. It looked like it would have been gone out wide, but in a lot of angles, it would have been hit right at Vicario. I don't think he's going to score, even if there's no deflection. I think Vicario pretty much saw that coming, but, well, thanks to Romero to deflect the ball in. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Not the most enjoyable first goal, but you know what? I mean, luck was on our side in that game, or in the first half, or for the first bit. Later on, Jesus missed that golden chance. I think he should have scored that one. We caught Maddison. We caught Spurs in their own half so many times in this game, and there's no way we weren't able to convert at least one in. But the closest one was the one with Jesus. It was when he got the ball. He could have probably taken an extra touch, but regardless, he has to hit the target from that range. And he puts the ball over the bar. And from 35th minutes to halftime, it's pretty much where we see Arsenal kind of falling apart. Quite a lot of tight legs. We weren't able to contain the possession, which was very surprising because considerably for the past few games, or at least for the start of the season, we have been dominating in terms of keeping possession, but allowing Spurs to keep that 10 minutes of possession in the final 10 minutes certainly hurt us. It was not until there's a good chance from Brennan Johnson, and later on James Maddison. Of course, I did put him on my FPL fantasy league. Assisted that one. It was a very clumsy defending. Bukayo Saka gets spun in that corner area. But what frustrated me the most was it doesn't seem like Declan Rice, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White kind of quick to react after Bukayo got spun, allowing Maddison to take a few more touches in that space, in that tight angle, and also allowing Son to maneuver to a point where he was completely, in a way, it was open to the goal. He found that pocket of space between Saliba, Declan Rice, and also Gabriel. And that was a brilliant finish by Son. And honestly, I thought from last season, based on how poor or mediocre Son had the season a year ago, I thought that was pretty much the time where his ability might decline. But it's fair to say that I was wrong. So far, he had been amazing, scoring 2 goals today. I mean, in the North London derby, of course, without Harry Kane this season, we don't have a courtesy of penalty kick from him anymore. But we still have Sonny in the Spurs team, which Arsenal might be very tough to kind of get away. But yeah, it was a very poor defending in general. Just a lack of reaction. And going to the halftime. And the big surprising change was pretty much Jorginho coming on with Declan Rice. I thought it was a tactical substitution, but turns out Declan Rice might have picked up a tight calf. And certainly Arteta did not want to risk it. Risk him for that, which is fair enough. Jorginho coming on. Before what happened to Jorginho, Calvert's coming on as well for Vieira. I think Vieira was fine, but clearly the left-hand side, Jesus, Zinchenko, and also Vieira are not quite clicking. Without Trossard or even Martinelli in the left, on the left-handed area, it's just a little bit tough. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised seeing Nketiah in the game today. I thought he might be better off, or at least in this game, might be better off playing as the impact sub. And might have probably put Smith Rowe or Nelson on the left, but again, without Trossard, it's really hard to kind of select the right player to play on the left winger role. And Jesus would pick for that. I think Jesus was pretty much today looks the brightest of all of them, alongside Bukayo Saka. Kai Havertz coming on. I mean, we certainly need a little bit more body, a little bit more physique in the middle, alongside with Declan Rice, but turns out it was Jorginho coming on. I think it was 15 minutes into the game, we got a penalty. It should have been a penalty. It is a penalty, but what baffled me is that the game, Spurs against United, where Spurs beat United in that game, Garnacho took a shot inside the box. Romero with the same hand action, kind of, flinging, in the middle of nowhere in the box. And somehow that wasn't a penalty. And honestly, as an honest fan, football fan, Arsenal fan, I think that game, that handball should have been a penalty. Hands down. I'm not sure how it happened in the end. But, we got a penalty. I mean, no doubt, to be honest. Didn't know it took, is it Robert Jones, a while, have to review for that part for 5 minutes at least. Portani is the VAR review referee. Should have probably just given the a clear penalty instead of waiting for all that excitement. Bukayo Saka on the penalty spot. I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans can relate. Still have a little bit of PTSD what Bukayo Saka did against West Ham, but that was a brilliant penalty. A great audacity for him to kind of chip it in the middle. I mean, it was a good penalty after all. I mean, the way how Vicario dove to the other side was, pretty much that sums up that penalty. And while we were watching, or at least when you guys are still watching on TV, while we were still watching on that beautiful penalty, out of nowhere, Jorginho dispossessed the ball, allowing Madison to assist Heung-min Son once again. A brilliant finish by Sonny, and they have equalized 2-2. And I was talking to myself. I was like, oh my God. I mean, yep, finally, not the greatest game so far, but we got the lead through a penalty. Keep it up. Once the highlights switch it back to the live commentary, the live gameplay, and that's where shits went down horribly. Jorginho had barely put a foot wrong since he joined the club. And even though he joined last season, losing to Everton, in that game, and losing to City, I thought Jorginho for the last half of that season has been very, very positive. A lot of criticism coming into him, the fact that he was 31-year-old, 12 million coming from Chelsea as well, being the agent of Chelsea, trying to bottle us from the league. But of course, he was the one who gave Emi Martinez a nightmare of his life, hopefully. But in this game, I can't defend him like that. I mean, I just can't. I mean, that was a very poor mistake. Especially from your own half, when you keep looking at the replay here and there, you can arguably say that Jorginho could have probably played the ball earlier, played the ball to Saliba, who was behind him. And I know Son was kind of leaning his body towards Saliba, but I know Saliba can definitely react by passing it back to Raya or just probably kick it long. But Jorginho was caught in between both minds right there, allowing James Maddison to nick the ball off him. And the game was back on once again. I believe the lead was there for less than 1 minute until Jorginho ruined it. Spurs ruined it. And later on, I felt like I can't really point out the specific in the second half because second half has been woeful. Spurs clearly should have probably won this game. I mean, based on how they are playing in the second half, in the second half, everybody was non-existent. I don't think anybody played well. Everybody made a mistake. Even Declan Rice today wasn't quite there today, but it was fine. Saliba made a few mistakes. Gabriel was fine. I think Gabriel out of everybody in the second half played the best. Zinchenko was fine. I think might got caught a few times here and there. Ben White was fine as well, just mediocre. I mean, the only standout player in the second half was Gabriel. Raya was fine, but except the distribution game from him was a little bit off today, or that game. Even Odegaard, after signing that big contract for Arsenal, we thought he might be a revolution to the game, but today he has been poor. Probably the poorest he has been in an Arsenal shirt. I mean, it's tough to say, but it is true. Eddie Nketiah today didn't quite work out for him, to be honest. And I thought that challenge for Karu should have been a red card. It was a nasty challenge. I thought it was a yellow card. That's it. But once the camera pan to the challenge for the slow motion, you can see that Fikaru was caught pretty lately. the momentum of how his foot was going certainly would have probably would have broken his leg. But thank God Vicario was fine. I mean, I don't want to see another. I just don't want to see another football player, the career being ruined because of one bad tackle. But luckily, nobody was injured. But in fair honesty, if Robert Jones has given that a red card, I will be, fair, and we just kind of bite ourselves in the tail. But the second half was pretty much that's it. I mean, we have no possession in the middle. We barely have any possession. We just keep dispossessing the ball on the wide flank, and at the same time, we weren't moving the ball quickly. Obviously, it has to do with midnight or midweek Champions League game. You can see tired legs everywhere. I mean, it's a dual, a tiring half for the Arsenal players. We just couldn't really get the ball out of the feet. I mean, Jorginho got caught more than several times now. More than a couple of times, actually. Maybe 3-4 times. Zinchenko did the same. Saliba did the same. But honestly, nothing quite worked out in the Arsenal back four. I was wondering if putting Tomiyasu in earlier would have probably controlled the game a little bit better, especially Zinchenko wasn't quite performing, even though Zinchenko did have a bit of a glimpse here and there, but that was about it. And I was surprised not seeing Tomiyasu in this game. I mean, if you want somebody who can keep possession for you, of course, Jorginho is one of them, but the Jorginho test has failed, safe to say, in this game. And at the same time, you can probably turn to your bench and ask, might be, El Neni could have done better in that situation. I mean, El Neni always keep it simple, sideway passes, not a lot of forward passes, but one of the great traits for Jorginho is the fact that he does a lot of forward passing. You can see a couple of display here and there. But later on, I mean, the fact that we're not quite clicking, we're not quite switching, and that is a time where Arsenal need to be, making those changes. And I thought the substitution of Reece Nelson was a little bit too late. I should have done it a little bit earlier. But the fact that taking out Jesus was a little bit, put a question mark in my head. I mean, Jesus has been the most exciting player on the pitch in the first half. And Eddie has been mediocre. Maybe I thought putting Jesus back in the center forward or striker role would make a leeway for Reece Nelson. I mean, Reece Nelson is pretty good in terms of coming off the bench. He can make something happen for you. But I think having 10 more minutes and not having Jesus in that, in that game, certainly, I felt like it was a little bit off. And even Nelson came on, didn't quite make a lot of impact. And we could have probably lost a few goals or, lost the game towards the last 10 minutes, to be honest. Spurs have been sitting very, very deep. And, Spurs have been sitting very deep. And I don't know what to say anymore. Richarlison almost scored that winner. Imagine Richarlison scored that winner. I certainly don't want to watch it anymore. But yeah, to both teams. I think both teams put out a good fight, but Arsenal certainly was affected by the midweek. Clearly, tired legs, boring display. I think without Thomas Partey being there in the middle, or even Declan Rice playing as the number 8 role in today's game would have probably been better. Having more physical presence in the middle. I mean, clearly, but Basuma, Sarr, and also Madison ran over the show in the midfield, and I think James Madison was a very good signing. So yeah, I mean 2-2. In the end, I'm glad we got a point. I mean, we certainly did not deserve to win that game at all. We have Bournemouth away next Saturday in City, which means that if we drew against Spurs, we have to win against City at home. I mean, there's no excuse. Hopefully by that time, Martinelli will be back, Trossard will be back, and I think during the midweek, especially in the Carabao Cup against Brentford. Maybe I think we should probably take a bit of a chill pill and not put on a full strength in there. Even though it's Brentford, they're a good team, but I don't want to risk any player just for a Carabao Cup. Even though it's a trophy, yes, it is a trophy, but we have to prioritize our competition. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Leave a like to this podcast wherever you're listening. Do all the good stuff to this podcast, and I'll see you guys in a bit.